God, we come to this place to worship and serve only you. We come to this place seeking your direction and your will. We come to this place to nourish our souls, to listen to you, to receive your power and your wonders, so that we can guide your people, to guide this church. God, I pray that the words from my lips and the meditation from my heart is both accepting and pleasing to you. Amen.
Amen.
Today's lesson title is Steadfast Love. Lesson scripture is Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength.
Amen.
The NIV version. If you remember last week's lesson on fear, I talked about how at the last minute that God parted the Red Sea to liberate the Hebrew people from the Egyptians. Can you imagine being chased by Pharaoh's army? In this week's lesson, the Hebrew people have crossed over the Red Sea in pursuit of the promised land. But before God gives them their new land, God is providing them with a covenant and some rules before they can enter the promised land. God wants a covenant of love for the Hebrew people that is motivated by loyalty and not fickle feelings of love. God wants a commitment with the Hebrew people, again, before they occupy this promised land for two reasons. One, so that they will remember and never forget their God, Yahweh. And it was their God, Yahweh, who liberated them out of bondage in Egypt. And number two, to teach the Hebrew people how to separate themselves or to set themselves apart from the local people and their customs. God was interested in a devoted relationship with them, not a fickle one. Although God's promise to the Hebrew people was materialistic in nature, for example, they were going to receive the cities, homes, lands, businesses, commerce, those kinds of things. It wasn't the tangible possessions that was important to God. God's focus was sustained on relationship with the Hebrew people and relationship with Moses' people. For example, you've heard me many times use examples of my own life. A lot of times I used the time when I was in the army. When we're in bondage of some sort, like the Egyptians were, it is easy to call on to God. It is easy to focus on God. Because when you're in bondage, that's all you have to do. Right? It's all you have to focus on. Right?
Right.
It's easier to have a relationship with God when we are in bondage. God has our immediate attention. Like for the Hebrew people. They didn't have anything else to do. They were slaves. They were enslaved. They were doing business. That's all that they could think about. When we're in bondage, we can't think about anything else other than God, please save us. God, please release us, restore us, liberate us. The book of Deuteronomy includes the infamous 10 Commandments and other laws that Moses' people are to follow generationally. These commandments and rules were an attempt to formulate a covenant between God and God's chosen people, the Hebrews. This covenant was to guide the Hebrew people in relationship again to their God and to teach them how to govern themselves and their new land, right? So that they won't forget. God wanted the Hebrew people to stand out, to be different as they enter this new promised land, the chosen ones. We can usually tell people of God or in spiritual maturity because they stand out. They stand out. When we're out and about, sometimes we can just tell. Sometimes we can tell by people's eyes if you just look. We can tell by the way that they act. The words that they choose, the encouragement, the affirmations that they use. We can just tell the way that they respond and interact in their life situations, even in the most difficult times. These people are they're more than just help people. Yes, that's It comes from within here. We share our spiritual maturity with people here to help encourage, to help affirm God's people. Deuteronomy chapters 5 through 11 is actually Moses' introduction speech that was intended to encourage and urge the Hebrew people not, again, to mimic the current culture or religious customs in the promised land of Canaan. Our verse today, Deuteronomy 6:5, focuses on the word love. The New Oxford Annotated Bible makes a distinction in their translation with this word love. It defines love two ways. One, love as a feeling, and we can see this in Leviticus 19:18. Love your neighbor as yourselves. And number two, they define it as a loyalty of action toward both God and neighbor. In other words, our love should never be based on the way that we feel.
Amen.
Sometimes human feelings can be fickle.
Yes. Yes.
I know if you're around me enough, sometimes you'll notice that one week I may tell you that I say that I like, particular food or whatever. I tell you that I really like that food. And I'm eating that food, maybe every day. I've got this urge to eat this food. And then next week, if you ask me, would you like to go and eat that particular food? Because I like it, right? I just kind of do this little face I did. I just kind of turn my nose up like that and say, I don't like that. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't love that anymore. Many times our emotions of anger and fear gets in our way, and our egos refuse to act in love and obedience to God's way, which is love. In today's lesson, God is making sure that the Hebrews will not be fickle in their love to God, humanity, and the universe, again, by offering a covenant here in Deuteronomy 6:5. God is providing the Hebrews with a covenant they can rely on forever. This covenant was intended to encourage and motivate them again to live their lives in love as they occupied the new promised land. As a matter of fact, God just didn't say, oh, by the way, here is a covenant to abide by. No. When God does this, when God delivers this covenant, God shows out on Mount Sinai. God showed out. If we read Exodus 19 in completion, we see how God revealed God's self to God's people in this spectacular fashion. So there is no doubt where this was coming from. It reads, God said to Moses, I am going to come to you in a dense cloud. So that's one thing that he did. So that your people can hear me speaking with you and will always put their trust in you, in Moses. Knowing that Moses had this deep relationship with God. Exodus 19:11. And be ready against the third day. For the third day, God will come down in the sight of all people upon Mount Sinai. God puts parameters around the mountain, telling people where to stand. Upon God's arrival, there's trumpets blowing. Okay, He sends in fire, smoke's billowing. And the mountain trembles. So God just doesn't show up. God shows out. Exodus 20 reports that God delivered the commandments to help govern the Hebrew people again, so that it will help govern them in peace, in love, when they cross over to their new promised land, when they get there. Again, these rules were intended to help separate them, set them apart, so that they could focus on their God, Yahweh. Okay? God wanted them again to be set apart in their new land and to teach them to serve and love Yahweh, not blend in with the other gods that other people worshipped, the pagan gods. We can also understand that God has other religious practice outside of their Jewish belief. God wanted them to focus on Yahweh, their God, the Hebrews' God. their beliefs, God's belief, Yahweh included a love that's greater than any kind of materialistic thing that they would have received, or their status, or their money, or any kind of anything that's put above God. In Exodus 23:33, God warns the Israelites that if they do serve foreign gods, it will surely be a snare. In Exodus 24, the Hebrews finally agreed to God's covenant. From Mount Sinai to the land of Canaan, Joshua and the priests carried the Ark of the Covenant over the Jordan River as they crossed into the land of Canaan. Speaking of loyalty, where's that map? And from Mount Sinai, which is at the bottom here, I think you can see this little cheap little Walmart building. This is right there. They travel all the way up there, all the way around this mountain, all the way up here, carrying that Ark of the Covenant. You think that they kept God in their minds as they're carrying that Ark of the Covenant? And a foresight? The Hebrews' liberation story is a phenomenal story. Mainly it is a story of commitment, love, patience, trust during the preparation time. Through the whole journey right there, all of that's preparation time, our waiting time. God was pruning them through all that. One resource indicates that there were 50 locations or 50 stops along the way. If you'd like, Google the Exodus route and witness the many stops that they made along the way. The Exodus story details several stops that the Hebrews encountered and their problems along the way. It's just like ours and our own journey along the way. We have things that come up. We have hiccups that come up. Remember last week when I said that God doesn't liberate us overnight and that victory takes time. Again, take a look at this map because victory occurs at the top of that map on the right-hand side. When they cross over the Jordan in Jericho, right here in the land of Canaan. This is when victory occurred. This is where God brings them out of Egypt, right here. Do you think they had to wait a bit for victory? Victory takes time. We have to learn how to trust God in the midst of this. The Hebrews realized to be free from bondage meant that they had to love God, not as a feeling, but love God in a much deeper way. Their hope and liberation and victory to a new transformative life of freedom required them to obtain a relationship that again required loyalty to God, not a fickle kind of love. The story reminds us that we must follow God because God requires a relationship with us.
Amen.
God, not because God yields to our feelings of love, or do we just have some kind of feeling about God? Do you think again that Moses, people were feeling wonderful kinds of feelings through the desert here? I don't think so. You remember Aaron and the calf, right? Of all people, he's a high priest. Enough of this stuff. The Hebrews in our own liberation stories are a result of our steadfast commitment and patience to God's covenant. To love and commit to God's ways, we as disciples of Christ believe in the covenant that God made to God's people. Here's the thing about this covenant. It wasn't given just to Moses. It was given way back to Abraham. We continue to follow God during even in the times of transitions that lead us to our next promised land because we trust where God is leading us. Like the Hebrews, life may get bumpy on our way to liberation and victory, but we must keep going because our covenant with God, not the way we feel. There are many times in life that it's easy just to succumb to our feelings, or they succumb to their own feelings. God is to be patient and loyal during the journey.
Amen.
God is always preparing us during the journey or during our wedding process. Fine-tuning us, getting us ready, right? If we are loyal, faithful, and trust in God's plan and not ours, we will see God's plan unfold as God sees it fit. We will see victory. Ignoring our feelings and embracing God's plan takes commitment again and trust in God's plan over ours, even when it seems ridiculous. Moses remained steadfast. There was nothing that stood in his way. Moses knew the victory was the promised land. Nothing stood in his way. Now he had trials, I'm sure, that he had to go through to get there. But his eyes was on God and God's victory. If we love God, we will have a steadfast love for Him and remain committed. You've heard me say this over and over again. Love is an action.
Amen.
First Corinthians 13, 4 through 8. English Standard Version. To our love for God, it would look like this. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way.
Amen.
This applies to the Hebrews in today's story and in our own lives, where we choose our own way instead of God's way. A lot of times during their journey, they chose their way. And it took them longer to get there. It's the same thing with our own lives. You know, our journey is just not a straight line. Right? We get off course. This is like this. It's like, God, why aren't you blessing me? God, why aren't you liberating me? God, you know? Well, if you would just stay on the path, you might get there a little sooner, right? Love is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends.
Amen.
In closing, we should never use our feelings of fickle love as a guide to direct us in life. It is hard to stick to God's plan when we are led by our feelings, but it won't make sense. This is the thing, it doesn't make sense. God is all-knowing. God has all resources that we don't even know. The next sermon, I'm going to talk some about Jacob. And you remember when Jacob was taking his people to the Jericho and the Jericho walls? Can you imagine what they thought when he said, march around the city walls, blow your trumpets? Do you think that they thought that he was crazy? We are closer to God when we learn to be more loyal. To love God, we must trust God and be patient to see God's plan unfold.
Amen.
We should remain loyal, especially in our desert times as God is preparing us for our next promised land. Moses was following God's plan. Moses' people was following their undependable feelings of love when they were arguing with each other in the desert and when Aaron made the calves. They expected the route to the promised land to be easily maneuvered without any turbulence. If you just looked at the terrain that was up there, we can tell that the terrain alone right? Health or the lack of food, or God provided for them in the middle of the desert. Victory takes time, but we must trust that God is leading us to that final liberation lap. God gave the Hebrews 40 years to prepare for their new promised land. During times of uncertainty, it is imperative that we make decisions based off our loyalty in loving and trusting God's lead, even if it feels wrong and uncomfortable. Our feelings are fickle and unreliable as a sound measure of guidance.